In the previous video, we left off reading the article titled Ugly Fruits and Vegetables, Why You Have to Learn to Love Them, right? This is a part of assignment 3, one of the resources, right, that we're doing from the project plan. It's number 4, so we have to read the article to learn about how companies are marketing ugly foods. So we left off in the paragraph that talks about using social media to market ugly foods. So it says, these daily doses of ugly fun feature such produce as intertwined carrots with the caption, "Ah, young carrot love," and a tomato with a seemingly long nose coined Serrano de tomato by one commentator. So that lets us know that, right, social media plays a big role in marketing ugly foods and getting people interested in buying them. This is going to be important because when I start to plan for my pitch and what I want to create and develop for reducing food waste, I might consider how I can use social media as a tool as well. Now we're going to keep reading. Ugly produce just resonates with people, says Figueredo, who also gets imperfect produce deliveries. A lot of people in this movement have capitalized on making it fun and not some sort of drudgery of environmental tasks. It's not just intuitive to want to do everything you can to prevent waste and help the planet and all that. Unfortunately, it's just not as easy as we'd like it to be, right? We don't just wake up one day and say, oh, what can I do to help the environment, right? We have to be taught and shown and persuaded to want to do it, unfortunately. Beyond waste concerns, thanks to imperfect produce cheaper costs, some hope this trend will also help provide the more than 48 million Americans who struggle with hunger greater access to fresh food. So you'll notice that I've highlighted this important fact, right? More than 48 million people struggle to eat. This was part of the motivation behind the launch in May of Perfectly Imperfect by produce wholesaler Forest City Weingart. Perfectly Imperfect offers boxes of imperfect produce at discounted rates for pickup or delivery in and around Cleveland. So basically, there's a part of the service where you can pay to get the imperfect produce delivered to your house. But there's also a part of the service where if you can't afford to pay to get it delivered, you can actually pick it up from the warehouse for less money. So you're getting access to the same thing, but you're paying less for it than the people who get it delivered to their house. And this is for people who may have less money to be able to still access the same fresh food. So I made a note of that, right? While some people can afford to pay to have their ugly food delivered to their home, other people who struggle with hunger are able to pay less by picking up the ugly food. So either way, they're still getting access to the food. We couldn't help but notice that the neighborhood surrounding our warehouse was in an area in need and considered a food desert. So I've highlighted a food desert here. A food desert is a place where grocery stores do not really exist. So there might be corner stores and gas stations and food marts, but there aren't really grocery stores with produce because, you know, you never go into a gas station and just see tomatoes and cucumbers and fresh fruits and vegetables. So if you live in a food desert, you are less likely to have access to those types of things. But this warehouse is located in a place where it's a food desert, and this warehouse does have fresh produce. So that's good because it gives people an opportunity to have access to produce that they don't have access to at places like gas stations and food marts. And I really just wanted to try to connect the few dots and figure out a way to disperse some of this food to some of the people who can afford to buy food for themselves, but just need things that are as affordable as possible. So basically, Ashley Weingart is trying to solve this problem, right? She wanted to be able to get food to people who don't have access and have very little money to pay for it. And so what she did was she put her warehouse in their community, and she offers pickups at a discounted rate. So that's how she's working to solve the problem. So when you're planning for what you're going to do, you have to think about, what is the problem? How can I solve the problem? So I've made a little note on the side. The location of the ugly food warehouse is near the people who need it because their neighborhood doesn't provide a lot of access to fresh foods and not affordable fresh foods. So I'm just kind of keeping track of the different solutions that people are offering so that when I start to plan, I have some ideas to go off of. Forest City Weingart is in Central, a neighborhood in Cleveland that Weingart says is one of the lowest income areas in Ohio. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight that, right? Low income means the people who live there don't make a lot of money. From 2010 to 2014, its median household income was $9,647 compared to $26,179 for Cleveland. And almost 70% of households received food stamps. So that's important. 70% of households receive food stamps. Now, I wonder if you can use food stamps to buy this imperfect fruit, because that might be a good idea, right, if it doesn't already exist. So I'm going to make a note here, right? So many of the families receive food stamps. Is it possible to use food stamps to buy the ugly foods? This might be an idea to help solve the problem. So I'm going to hold on to that. Okay, add that comment. But Marian Nestle, a professor of nutrition, food studies, and public health at New York University, says while these types of services may be a reasonable short-term measure, solving hunger requires structural and sustainable solutions. That is very true. Okay, so we need something that's long-term. Food insecurity is the result of lack of resources. Money to buy food, access to food, sources, ability and time to cook, adequate transportation, the cost of food, and other such factors. Okay, so I'm going to highlight this because it's an important note, right? These are problems. Money to buy food is a problem. Having access to the food sources is a problem. Ability and time to cook, these are all problems. So when I'm thinking about my business and my pitch, what problem do I want to solve and how do I want to solve it? So I'm going to make a note. These are all problems that impact the ability of people to get food. Okay, there may be an idea here to pitch if I can solve one of these problems. It is not about the appearance of fruits and vegetables. If these are cheaper, poor people might be more willing to buy them, but they would not want to like them, know how to cook them. Wait, let me read that again. If these are cheaper, poor people might be more willing to buy them, but they would need to want to like them and know how to cook them, all of which are cultural issues. Okay, so that's what they're saying. So they're saying that they might want to buy it, but they would need to still know, right, how to cook it and how to like it. So that's what the part that we have to teach. So this is where education comes in at. So I'm going to highlight this part and I'm going to make a note. So this is an opportunity to educate people on ugly foods and how they aren't much different. Okay. Weingart admits the biggest challenge we face is informing the people who need it the most. That's why they're working with partners in the city to get this produce delivered to community and recreation centers. So we're looking at different places that food can be delivered. Community and recreation centers. Weingart says they're also developing a bag of produce that will cost less than $10 since it's easier to transport and cheaper. Okay, so this is another thing that they're trying to do to solve a problem. So again, these are just ideas that someone else is coming up with to try to solve a problem that can help inspire me when I'm trying to think about how I'm going to solve the problem. The financial savings haven't been huge for Levine in the Bay Area. She thinks possibly due to Imperfect Produce's delivery charges. So see, that's something that's expensive. This is something that people have a problem paying for, delivery charges. She spends about $25 every 2 weeks, but she plans to stick with it. She's happy with the produce and says the variety has expanded her cooking repertoire. Mostly, though, it makes her feel a little more proactive. So I'm going to make a note, because if I'm going to solve a problem, I want to be able to make sure that it's a better solution than other solutions that are out there. So people have a problem affording the delivery charges. This is something to consider, making easier in my page. I can't change the economy. I can't get rid of poverty, she says. It's shameful in a country that has so many people who don't have enough food to be wasting food, and truly gargantuan amounts of food. When you know what you want to do, when you know that you want to do something about it and you get the opportunity to do that, I'd take it. So here, this is where we are, right? We have the opportunity to think about what could we do about it? And that's what this whole PBL 2 is about. So finally, we finished this article, the article titled Ugly Fruits and Vegetables and Why You Have to Learn to Love Them. So we're going to highlight step 4 green and cross it off our list like we did all the others. Okay, so notice we've done 4 of our tasks so far. So we're getting good progress. Right, the next thing says, after reading these 3 articles, answer the 4 questions from page 7. And that's what I'm going to go over in the next video. I'm going to go over where these 4 questions are and how we can answer them on our document. So stay tuned and be sure to watch the next video.